McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Right before me, my newfound hippie side. Once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children lie to see Mother Nature sigh?
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome everyone to Smart Health Talk Radio Show. Hey, how you doing? You're listening to Elaine McFadden here. I am your host for this show, and you're listening to KCAA 1050 AM, or you might just try your dial at 106.5, and because that's our new FM choice that we have, and especially if you're over there in the Yucaipa area, but very soon we'll be able to offer that to you over in the Moreno Valley Riverside area as well. And I'm so glad that you're listening to our show. I'm a dietitian. I have a master's in public health, and I'm about keeping you healthy, keeping you feeling good, and I have some great information for you today, and I'm very excited to share that with you because we get a lot of misinformation in the news, and it's very confusing. People don't know what to believe, and I've been getting a lineup of guests for us coming on in the future, which should be some pretty exciting stuff. I'll go over that in a minute. Some of the guests that we'll have coming up on our show. Today, I really want to focus on some things that have been happening in the news, and these are really, really important facts that we'll be discussing because there is that misinformation going on out there. And when it comes to big corporations, and we've been talking a lot about this in politics as well. And that's because these big corporations have a lot of power right now. They actually have more power than any other time in history, really, because of how big they are and how much money that they have. And then certain laws that have been passed, they give them a lot of power where they're kind of shielded. For example, one of the things that are going on is companies that are out there polluting our environment. First thing that comes to mind is Duke Energy dumping a bunch of coal ash in the river. And, they knew that there was a problem there. And this is a big concern for me because anything that is affecting people's environment, their food, all of these things impact your health. A lot of people hear about, my gosh, I tell you, my Facebook has just been blowing up tonight. I don't know, these people are going crazy. I did kind of want to have it open, but boy, they're posting like crazy. And if you want to join us on Facebook, we're over there at Smart Health Talk, Elaine McFadden. You could type both of those things in and find us. But I tell you, we've been blowing up on Facebook today. People have been back and forth talking. It's been really crazy, posting right and left. And that's because there's a big decision coming down tomorrow regarding something called the DARK Act, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And this is huge. I mean, this is affecting affecting us in lots of different ways with our food and this trade agreement, jobs, big time influence over our future and how we're going to be doing a lot of things. And a lot of smart people that we have on our Facebook account have been evaluating this for a while, and they see a lot of problems with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and that's why we don't want the Trans-Pacific Partnership to happen. Because it wasn't put together in a way that's beneficial to all Americans, puts us at a risk in a lot of different ways. So I would advise you to please come on our Facebook or just type in Trans-Pacific Partnership. But we have some great posts on what's going on, who to call, different petitions to sign, because we're down to the wire here. The big decision with Trans-Pacific Partnership is happening tomorrow. You could type in Smart Health Talk, TPP, and if you do that, what's going to happen is you are going to find my website, where we have a page on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We put a bunch of information there that kind of gives you the outline of what's going on. We had a great interview with someone that really that kind of lives for this whole thing every single day, passionate about this like no one I've ever seen before. And these people, they don't mess around. They really get into finding out the truth behind what's going on here. And I know that their heart is into protecting us and looking out for us. So, excuse me, I'm going to get some water here. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership tomorrow is going to be a big vote on that. Another thing that's happening that affects all of us is HR 1599. We've talked about this on our show before. And if you remember, we've been trying to get GMO labeling to know what's in our food. We have a right to know what's in our food. Let's see. I had one really good article here that I want to pull up. Oh, I had it on my Chrome. But anyway, it comes down to we have thousands of different chemicals that have been approved for our food. I'm going to close that and try to open my history here. There was a really good article that I was reading that I had wanted to share with you. Unfortunately, my Skype did not work in my Google, so I had to switch over, and I'm looking at my history here. I didn't want that. Oh yeah, lots of Skype. And it was, I remember it was like something over 300,000 different chemicals that had been approved for our food. Oh, here we go. Excuse me. It was 34,000 pesticides and 600 chemicals later. The U.S. food supply is suffering. More than 34,000 pesticides derived from about 600 basic ingredients. Oh, so this is pretty much saying that we have 34,000 different pesticides in use that come from 600 basic ingredients, and that's really kind of a confusing statement there as well, because even though we have main ingredients in pesticides, there's a lot of other ingredients that they don't have to tell you that are in pesticides. And those are really scary ingredients. We've had guests on our show say that they'll use nuclear power water that was wastewater from nuclear power plants, because there's a lot of byproducts from different kinds of industrial processes, and if people are if they are They don't want to pay to have those disposed of in the normal way. What happens is they say, hey, pesticide company, why don't you take this and put it in your bottle of pesticides along with the active ingredient, and then that way we can get rid of it, and it's really good at killing things. Excuse me, I don't know, it's my voice today. Testing. It's these ingredients in there that from a waste from a nuclear power plant will go into a pesticide, and they don't have to tell you that it's in there. And then the company that created that waste, they don't have to pay the extra money to dispose of it in the proper way as a hazardous material. So that can be in your pesticide and you don't even know it. And they will only have to tell you about the active ingredient. And that could be just a very small percentage of what's in the pesticide bottle. And yet they have this other ingredients that they don't have to tell you. And those can actually be more toxic than the active ingredient in the pesticide. And so when we're talking about 34,000 different pesticides that are being used in our environment, I mean, this is just insane. The fact that we're using all this, and pesticide exposure, farm workers, people that are applying these pesticides, we just, if you go to our Facebook and you scroll down, you'll see that we were out there protesting, spraying in our neighborhood these very pesticides. They're coming down the street, they're spraying in our neighborhoods for West Nile virus. As a response to this, we have started our own group. It's called the Healthy Alternatives to Pesticides Inland Empire. And please come and join us on that. There's another group up in Santa Clara. If you are up in that area, if you're thinking, hey, we want to get our own group going here in our area, we want healthy alternatives to pesticides. We don't want them spraying pesticides on our streets, in our windows, where our kids are sleeping, coming on our property without our permission, without a warrant, for the sole purpose of applying a hazardous, toxic pesticide. And I'm going to get in with you today on just how hazardous these are, because I feel like a lot of people do not realize just how hazardous these pesticides are. I tell you, my Facebook is blowing up. Oh my gosh, these people are just going crazy here. I think I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to, get out of this. They are posting right and left because we know we're down to the wire on this. Okay, so we're talking about pesticides being sprayed on our homes, and we have started a group right here. We took a stand. We went out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. We blocked these trucks from going down the street because everyone thinks, oh, I just have to take this. I just have to accept the fact that they're spraying on my home these toxic pesticides, destroying my organic garden, which is what we were trying to protect that day when we were out there at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We had KCAA out there, Channel 7, we're KCAA, we had Channel 7, LA News out there. They covered our story from at 5, 6, and 7 o'clock news. We had that on our Facebook as well. And I was really glad that they came out there. It gave us a chance to show other people that watch the news that, hey, you don't have to just take this. You can come out there, and we blocked that street. They did not come down the very street where our friend's home was, where her kids live, where they have an organic garden, and she had beehives, she has chicken, she has tilapia fish, and this is what she's feeding her family. And she told us that her child suffered with asthma, and when she put them on this all-organic diet, she went through her kitchen, she threw away anything that was not organic. It went in the trash. She looked at it and said, this is poison. I don't need to be feeding this to my family. And you know what? The health of her child did a complete 360, 180, whatever it is. They went from having asthma attacks to no asthma attacks. And I have heard this story over and over again. Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America March, who just got back from a conference where they are giving awards away for farming that's going on in places all over the world, including Africa. And what she saw at that conference was just shocking. I mean, it was pretty much a big advertisement for Monsanto. Monsanto is pushing their way into these other countries. I've read that they do deals with corrupt leaders. They push indigenous people off their property. They've owned that property for even hundreds of years, and the government comes and takes it, and who do they sell it to? They sell it to Monsanto. And they just make themselves out like, oh, we are going to save you. We are going to save you. Well, I just read another article where over in, I think it was India, the corn crop, 50% loss. The cotton crop. 50% of the cotton crop failed. It failed. And so all of these poor farmers that paid all this money for this seed that cost 4 times as much as other seed, and they have to buy pesticides and herbicides and all these special fertilizers and these different things to even make it grow, because the soil just is so destroyed in the process of all this that the soil cannot support the plants on its own. So you have to add all of these other ingredients to the soil to even make it be able to grow these crops, and it ends up costing a lot of money. And what happens is the farmers get so far in debt, they don't want their family to be in debt, so what they do is they drink the pesticide and kill themselves to get out of debt. It is just tragic, tragic, tragic. And like, we have had thousands of farmers do this. They get tricked into buying this seed. The crop fails. We had 50% failure rate with this cotton crop. And, this is what we're going to start seeing more and more of. Everyone thinks that, GMOs are immune to, diseases and all this, and that is not true. It was really kind of exciting. The Blacklist, anyone that watches The Blacklist, they actually covered this subject on GMO crops. I love the fact that they mentioned that this was a monocrop culture where, it's just one type of strain of crops all planted all over the world. We introduce some sort of special virus. We could wipe it all out. It could all be gone. And then we would have a world global crisis, food crisis, where, we're all sitting around, what are we going to do now? And instead of doing that, instead of depending on these GMO crops that take massive amounts of resources, which we do not have. This stuff is like finite. Phosphorus, only 30 years left, and no more phosphorus. Then what are we going to do? And these crops need phosphorus. They got to put phosphorus in the soil because they're not doing sustainable farming techniques that support the soil without having to add all of these extra things. And it's very, very expensive in the end. We could actually be growing sustainably. We could start to change our whole system of farming. And we start growing organic no-till farming, the prices are not going to go up. Actually, the yields are just as high as GMO. We're reversing climate change. And think of the cost that climate change is costing us right now with all of these devastating weather events that are happening, all the destruction. Billions and trillions of dollars of destruction just from climate change. And organic farming reverses climate change in a big way. It does it fast, pulls carbon from the soil. The little microorganisms eat it like candy. It nourishes the soil all at the same time. It's a win-win situation. So every time you buy organic, and you can afford it. I've been making recipes here at home where I, just make some simple foods from scratch, spaghetti sauce, chili, beans, these kind of things. I went to the farmer's market last Saturday. I got some really great stuff for such a good deal. I mean, I could not believe the prices. I'm going to tell you another little trick that I just did right here in my neighborhood. I mean, there's food everywhere. Up in Seattle, they're building a park. They are creating an environment environments for free food for everybody. People can come and just get food. They can get plants and take them home and start growing. They're planting trees in the parks that are going to be full of fruit, and people can just come to the park and pick fruit. Imagine that. You know, why not have environments like that? Why not have parks where people that are hungry, they can come and get food, and not just any food, not just chips and cheap food at the 99-cent store. No, they can come and get organic fruits right from the tree. I mean, this is so exciting, this whole concept. And as a dietitian, that's just the kind of foods I know I want people to eat. I was very upset this week, very, very upset, when I found out that the statistics for type 2 diabetes and obesity in our children are higher than ever. Our children are more overweight than ever right now. It was over 30% of our kids are obese and have type 2 diabetes. What is it like to give a child that type of sentence for the rest of their life? I mean, I have talked to someone that had diabetes, and they had to have a pancreas transplant, and they felt labeled. They felt ashamed of the fact that they had this disease. It affected how they acted at school and around other people, and they were ashamed when people found out they had diabetes. You know, it was like they had cooties or something, and it was very upsetting for them, and it really changed their life. And just the fact that, you know, that you could die from this. Lots of different things happen when you have diabetes. You can go blind. Your kidneys can stop functioning. You can lose the feeling in your fingers, your feet. It's the number one reason for amputations, losing limbs. And then people become disabled, you know, they get on disability. It's just costing us so much money. Just diabetic medication alone. The cost for one medication was $1,000 for 90, and now it's $10,000 for 90. So we're playing right into the hands of these big corporations. And Monsanto, you know, they are part of like Pfizer. So not only do they make pesticides, they make drugs. So, you know, all this works for them. They just keep making more money off us being sick. And I say, forget that. Don't let them do it to us. Don't let them do that to our kids. Let's start taking control. And Mila, you can find our interview with Mila on Ustream. And that was back in September, around September 30th or so. And you can find that Ustream on the KCAA Ustream. Try just searching Smart Health Talk. September 30th, I think, was the date for that. And she had some incredible things to say about how she's trying to take care of her family. And, you know, she doesn't want to see her child sick. And we have a choice. We don't have to accept spraying of heavy-duty pesticides in our neighborhoods. We don't have to accept our children getting sick at the hands of, you know, feeding them junk food. We have choices. You can go to the farmer's market and save a lot of money. And what about in your neighborhood? How many people have neighborhoods that actually do have fruit trees growing already? And I want to share with you an example of what happened to me this week. Water. I tell you, no calories, you know. Doesn't cost a lot of money, all right? And I got another special something right here I'm going to show you too that is another great drink to have. It's so awesome. I'm totally getting into it, and it really, really tastes good too. So what happened to me this week? Well, I happened to see one of my neighbors coming down the street doing a morning walk, and started talking to her, and I had noticed this really great pomegranate tree on the next street over when I was actually picking these beautiful oranges, organic oranges that are in a neighbor's house. They let me come and pick them. And I noticed another house had one of the biggest pomegranate trees that I've ever seen in my life. And I love pomegranates. They are, when you get a good pomegranate, it's something you can sit and eat and eat. It's kind of like, chips, but with way less calories, and it's full of antioxidants. If any of you have heard of pomegranate juice and all their, they talk about all the antioxidants in their product, and that's because it has that. But when you eat the whole pomegranate seed, not only do you get the antioxidants in the juice, but you get fiber, lots of fiber. And I really recommend that people try to eat whole oranges, but these are also great for juice. And when I make juice, there's all kinds of fiber in the juice when I make it. I make a big old pitcher of fresh orange juice out of these. And, these have been on the tree for months. They're so sweet and delicious even this time of year, which is way towards the end of the season, but they last on the tree. And so free oranges just for the asking, because so many people have trees that are full of fruit and there's no way they're going to use it all. Just like, people end up with a whole bunch of zucchini in their garden when they grow zucchini or other fruits or vegetables in a garden, that you have more than you need for your family. And it is such a great feeling to go and share food with your neighbors. Maybe people that in your neighborhood that like helped you with some things, and then you can come and bring them some free food, and it's really great. And so this neighbor, I mentioned the pomegranate tree, and she's like, I'd never met her before. I was actually meeting her for the first time, and she says, "Oh, that's my pomegranate tree." And I'm like, "You're kidding me." I have been like wanting to ask if I could please come and pick some pomegranates from that tree. And she's like, "Come on over right now." So next thing you know, I'm like throwing my clothes on and heading on over to the next street over where the pomegranate tree was. And that tree had literally hundreds. She said her brother had picked 200 off of it, and there were still hundreds more. And you got to check this out. Look at this pomegranate, okay? Is that a pomegranate or what? This is like the granddaddy. I got two of them here. Woohoo! This is like these pomegranates. I can't wait to eat these, but I got to take some pictures of them first because they're pretty special. And I tell you, just cut it open. I cut it like in about 8 pieces and get a bowl and just start eating it. And these pomegranates didn't even stain my hands. They were sweet. You can sit and watch TV and you can like just keep eating, and it's not very many calories. It's kind of a free food, really. And that's what I love about pomegranates. You sit and eat a bag of chips, and next thing you know, you've eaten 1,000 calories. And you get to wake up tomorrow with maybe an extra pound on there. Not with a pomegranate. Instead, you're getting fiber, antioxidants. It's sweet. It satisfies that sweet tooth. And is this like a nice pomegranate or what? And I mean, I came home with at least 100 pomegranates. So the first thing I did, as soon as I got home, I went across the street because I know there's a single mom over there. And, things are always tight when you're a single mom working, just kind of a not that, so-so paying job. And so I went over there to bring her some of the pomegranates because I'm sharing the wealth, which of course is a great feeling. And so went over there, not even knowing that she had a persimmon tree in her yard. So I take her some pie. I'm like, "Do you like pomegranates?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I love pomegranates." And I'm like, "Okay, here, have some." And she goes, "You know what? I have this big persimmon tree right here." And there were literally hundreds of persimmons on that tree. And she's like, "Would you like some persimmons?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Heck yeah." I've been wanting some persimmons, but I really couldn't afford them, even at the farmer's market, because I was trying to choose more vegetables, and then I got some great organic meat there too. That was actually raised by a student. So what did I end up with? A whole big bag full of persimmons. And I'm going to try to play that forward. And the lady that was nice enough to give me the pomegranates, I'm going to take her some persimmons and see if that's something that she likes, and offer her some persimmons from the other neighbor's tree that also got pomegranates. Now, what a concept. Neighbors sharing food. I mean, this is the way we used to do things, right? This is the way we used to do it. And, there are a lot of things going on right now to try and take away our food rights. There's ag-gag laws being passed all across the country that keep us from even being able to speak up, that allow corporations to tell us how we're going to eat, what we're going to be allowed to have, what we get to know and not know about what's in that package of food that we're eating. But you know what? I know what's in this, and it's pomegranate seeds. And I don't have to guess. And when you're buying a processed food, if it's not organic, it's a big question mark there. You really don't know what's in there. Now, I was mentioning earlier about spraying on down our streets. Well, we went to, our group actually went to the board meeting for the Northwest Mosquito and Vector Department. I guess we were like their first time that anyone actually came to their board meeting, and that was kind of different for them to have all of us kind of convening on their board meeting. We each had some time to get up and speak, and had a lot to say about what was going on there. For me, the fact that they've been doing this spraying instead of educating the public on how to eliminate mosquitoes, because I would much rather have them eliminating the mosquitoes by teaching people to get rid of standing water and what a breeding ground is for mosquitoes. And we all need to work together as a community to eliminate this mosquito threat to begin with. And when we eliminate the mosquito threat, we don't have to spray. And there's no reason to spray. Gosh, these people are like crazy on Facebook. You have to come and visit us on Facebook right now. People are fired up, I'll tell you. But I wanted to share with you, at the meeting, they were telling us, they found one mosquito, which was a new kind of mosquito. It's a different kind of mosquito than the West Nile virus mosquitoes. And they, I guess that they get into the soil even, is where they breed, and they carry dengue fever. And we're just like, oh my gosh, dengue fever, it's going to come and get me. Well, they found one mosquito, okay? And I guess they did go into the neighborhood, telling people where they found the mosquito, kind of warning them that this could be happening, passing out brochures. But I wanted to read to you what was in the brochure, and this is what I'm talking about as far as scare tactics. They tried to make people think that there's this huge threat out there, and therefore we are justified by spraying toxic pesticides in our neighborhoods. And I propose that we need to instead work on prevention. Number one, if we get down to where, that's not working, then the last resort is always pesticides. But these pesticides are endocrine disruptors. And I am about to show you what happens when you have an endocrine disruptor pesticide going in the environment and in your body, because they want us to believe that these are safe, and that's what they say, these are safe levels, but actually there are no safe levels of any endocrine disruptor pesticide. There is no safe level. Every time it's in your body, it's causing destruction. There is no safe level. And so that's what they want us to think, and they also want us to have a lot of fear. Now, when you look at what is killing people in the United States, heart disease is the number one disease that's killing people. Not West Nile virus, not dengue fever. And in the United States, we had 63 deaths from West Nile virus, a mosquito-borne illness. That was all out of 320 million people, 63 deaths. Now, 40 million people died of the top 10 killers: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, those type of things. Now, 40 million people died of those diseases, and only 63 people died of West Nile virus. And there were 1,024 cases nationwide, and many of those people are already sick. And that's why they were susceptible, and there can be confusion if they get a flu shot, because it's very hard to identify that little antigen that is West Nile virus in a when you're doing a sample. It's very, very hard to identify that. I just can't even believe how many times people are posting in Facebook right now. So anyway, it's very, very hard for them to even isolate West Nile virus and go, aha, that's what's making this person sick, is West Nile virus. We don't have a really, really good test for that, and even the CDC can have a hard time. So even it's questionable on whether those 1,024 cases were really West Nile virus. We have not that many conclusive evidence. The CDC website says there have been times when 72% of the tests were false positives. So, we don't know that this is all even, related to West Nile virus. And yet they're spraying miles and miles of neighborhood with pesticides using taxpayer money to poison us, is pretty much what's happening. So in their brochure, it says that mosquito-borne diseases have been responsible for more human deaths than any other disease in human history. Okay, so, that's fine and good, but that has nothing to do with us. We're talking human history here. That doesn't matter. What matters is what is going on in the United States at this point in time. And we have 1,024 cases, 63 deaths out of 320 million people. That's it. And so to me, those stats do not apply to the U.S. or what's happening right now. And so I don't like those kind of tactics where they try to scare people and they blow things out of proportion for their own benefit. And these departments benefit from spraying our neighborhoods, because that gives them a reason to ask for more money for their department so they can, they can do more stuff. And they just built a new building over there at the Vector department, and, they have their employees and all this. So, they approved a new job for the lab, all these kind of things. But yet they say they have no money to educate the public on how to prevent West Nile virus and prevent mosquitoes. So anyway, that's I hope that you will go to our Healthy Alternatives to Pesticides Inland Empire group on Facebook and find us and join us, because we are going to continue to put pressure on the Vector department, on the media, and when the media reports about West Nile virus, they report in favor of the Vector department. They're not even giving the other side of the story, where all the risks that are associated with being sprayed with pesticides. People get sick from pesticides. They die from pesticides. They get diseases from pesticides. And these are endocrine disruptor pesticides that they are spraying. Now, I want to share with you, I just want to give a couple of other brief announcements here. First of all, Monsanto was ordered to pay $93 million to a small town for poisoning the citizens. Okay, this just happened. Monsanto, $93 million, which is a drop in the bucket to them. And to me, that's not really, is that really what those people's lives were worth, and all of the pain and suffering they went through at Monsanto's expense of poisoning the environment with Agent Orange chemicals that they just dumped, PCBs, they just dumped in the river, in the water, contaminating the water. They don't even care. All right, so I don't know, 93 million, and the thing is, what I was talking about earlier, The laws protect Monsanto. We cannot come after people at Monsanto. We cannot hurt the corporation. All we can do is fine them. That's it. And usually the fine is nowhere close to the amount of damage that was done. So that was a decision that was just recently made. Okay, and then another thing that happened over in Guatemala is the indigenous Mayans, they won a stunning repeal of the hated Monsanto law. These people protested and protested and protested because they don't want GMO corn. They don't want it. And a lot of other countries don't want it. And we're going to try to push this GMO corn on all these different countries for Monsanto's benefit. It doesn't benefit anybody else in the country to be pushing this GMO corn on all these other countries, making deals with corrupt leaders, pushing people off their land so Monsanto can come and do research on some new poison or some new GMO seed. And that's what they want, like they do in Hawaii right now. They're forcing all those people to be exposed to experimental pesticides, experimental seeds, just like they highlighted in the blacklist this past week. And they're making themselves out like, oh, we're just going to help you, when that's not true at all. And what it does is it makes America look bad. Why are we supporting Monsanto in all of this? Why are we creating laws to help them push their products on other countries that don't even want it? And I know that I talked to Dr. Michael Hansen, Consumer Reports. He was busy working on a paper to be submitted to legislators that tell them, yes, GMO DNA is present in these oils, the canola oil, the cottonseed oil. All these different oils have GMO DNA in there, as well as the corn and all the other food. Well, these people said, over in Guatemala, said, hey, we don't want this. We're not leaving. We're going to keep protesting this until you change the law, and they won. And that's what we need to do here. We need to stand up to spraying in our neighborhoods, pushing these GMOs and pesticides on us when it's not a sustainable form of agriculture. It is going to destroy us. Now, I want to share with you some graphs here. First of all, I gotta shut this Facebook down. These people are just going, and I am going to go over here to a quieter section. And okay, I want to show you what's going on here. All right, here we go. First of all, this is to help show the increase in the amount of GMOs that have been grown over the years. As you can see, up the amount of GMOs that are being grown. And this is corn, soy, canola, cotton. Okay, and then this is the amount of glyphosate. That's the poison that needs to go on the GMOs. You can see it started off down here, and it's just increased the amount of this pesticide that is being used. It is now in everything. It is in 100% of our children's umbilical cords. It's in the rain. It's in the water. It's in our food. It's in everything. We're breathing it every single day. Okay, now we have some other graphs here, and if you want to see all this, just go to kcaaradio.com and go to our Ustream. And you can see the graphs right here. Okay, what do we have? Liver and bile duct cancer incidence. Then we also have kidney and renal pelvis cancer. Okay, now the bottom part down here is the amount of people that are getting the cancer. And it started off in 1975 over here. And then we go up to 2008 over here. And you can see back in 1975, hardly anyone even got these cancers. But when you look at the other lines, the red and green and blue line, that is showing how much of the GMO that was being grown and how much glyphosate was being used. And you can see there's a direct correlation between the amount of GMOs being grown and glyphosate being used and how many people are getting cancer. Now, they go on, even though the World Health Organization came out and said, oh, the 7 top oncologists in our organization say Roundup causes cancer. There's all kinds of articles out there saying, oh no, that's not true. It's perfectly safe. It's perfectly safe. That's not true. Well, I am telling you it is true. And these are endocrine disruptors, and these are the same kind of pesticides that they're spraying in our neighborhoods in the name of West Nile virus. Okay, what else do I have? I have urinary bladder cancer, and I have thyroid cancer. Okay? Again, we see a definite pattern here with the amount of people really low that were getting these cancers. And then you look at when we start increasing the use of GMOs and glyphosate, the amount of people that are getting cancer goes in direct correlation with the increase in those crops and those pesticides. Okay, then I have hypertension and deaths due to stroke, which we were talking about earlier. That's our big killers, that's something like 20 million people there. And when we look at this, we can see, again, it's just the same pattern over and over again. Okay, here we have obesity and diabetes. They go hand in hand. Get fat and you get diabetes because you have all this fat in your body, and it messes around with your receptors, being able to get the glycogen in the receptor and get the insulin inside the cell. And this is what's happening. Okay, and we have diabetes and lipoprotein metabolism. Okay, well, that's going to determine whether you're going to get heart disease or not. And again, it's the direct relationship. We use more GMOs and glyphosate, and we have more disease. Okay, and this right here, let's see, what other ones do I have? I have, renal, end-stage renal disease and renal failure. And this one really upsets me. I mean, people have to go to the dialysis center 3 times a week, and it costs $500 every time they go, $1,500 a week. That's $6,000 a month to go to the dialysis center for anyone that has end-stage renal disease. This is very, very expensive, directly related to the amount of GMOs and glyphosate. Okay, then we have intestinal problems. We have inflammatory bowel disease. Okay, it's just the same pattern. This one was huge in intestinal infections. And a lot of people don't know that Monsanto's glyphosate, Roundup, is actually an antibiotic. That means when you're eating all this food, it's going into your digestive system and killing your good bacteria. It's an antibiotic. It's killing all the good guys in there, and so no wonder. This is like way, way up there with intestinal infections, because, all your immune system has been wiped out. That's why it's happening. Okay, the number of children with autism. Now, this is a really big controversial subject, but when you look at the graph right here, you can see there's a direct correlation with the amount of glyphosate being used and the amount of kids that have autism. This is extremely upsetting, and these are endocrine disrupting pesticides, the same that they're spraying in our neighborhoods for West Nile virus. Okay, so we know, all we have to do is look at the graph, and we can see that there's a direct correlation. So I hope, I wanted to show you one other thing that I have right here. And this is my own homemade kombucha tea that is a fermented product, which is extremely valuable for keeping you healthy, keeping the good bacteria in your gut. We were just talking about intestinal infections. Well, this will help prevent it. It's really fun to make. I have cheesecloth on the top. If you can see, there's a SOBI right here. There's like this round thing, and it's kind of weird feeling too, but it's actually like a bunch of bacteria in there, and there's yeast and bacteria that grow. And I just made some really strong tea, and you do put like close to a cup of sugar in here, along with the SOBI thing, and you just leave it sitting on your counter. And Kubachu tea is like very expensive in the store, and you can make this at home. You can go to Kubachu Camp with a K, and you can find all the supplies to make this at home yourself, and along with the instructions, you can make all kinds of flavor. You can add fruit to it, and kids will love it too. And people think they don't like it, but trust me, this stuff tastes really good, and your gut will be so happy for it. Okay, well, hey, I hope you guys learned some really important things today, and I hope I convinced you that pesticides, there is a direct relation between pesticide and disease. And I hope that you're even going to think about going and like sharing and exchanging fruit within your neighborhoods. Why waste all this great food? When you can share it. Look what I have here. I have all this great stuff, and it all came from my neighbors. And we're just, switching back and forth, and I'm going to be sharing some stuff from my garden with them as well. So, this is what it means to, kind of be human and take care of each other. And we need to do a lot more of that. And I hope that you're going to go to our website and our social media and find us, Smart Health Talk. And tune in again next Tuesday. And we really appreciate you staying and listening to what we have to say today. And please share this with your friends, because our podcast and our Ustream goes up after the show. You can find all this and share it with somebody else, and so they can learn all this great stuff too, okay?
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.